Shalom. Kol halal Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai Bahasham Rakaha Kwadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. All right, the would-be judges, the 144,000 among the saints. And the scattered saints, the scattered Israelites that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners among the heathen nations that look like those heathen nations. This is not a black thing. And to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm coming at you another lesson in truth, a very important lesson. And this was a video that was sent to me by the beloved up-and-coming young bro, Quadar, in the Chicago camp. And this is a man who's clearly been listening to the prophets. A lot of his speaking points are the speaking points that the Hebrew Israelites have been bringing out, especially the elder apostles. I mean, the apostles and the elder bishops, all right, on the YouTube since 2007. And no one else was speaking on these topics before they were. Right. And then this guy speaks on Europe being a part of Asia, and that is only 6 continents. And I can honestly say I never heard anyone say it until I brought it out. All right. And this guy is speaking on it and using a lot of talk points that the Israelites use. He even calls himself the saint. So, you got these guys who enter into other men's labors and then try to make, now I'm not going to say he's just trying to, do a money grab, anything like that, but I'm also not going to say that he isn't. And he was on point with so many things, but there's one very important thing that he doesn't get, that he doesn't know. And that's that whole false social construct of whiteness and blackness. He called himself black. He called the Minoans and the Etruscans, he called black when he called them Australians. All right. Who are the actual, the people who in Australia that got wiped out that he's going to talk about were sons of Japhet, are the son of Japhet. That's where they originally came from. Those were the people in Europe. And I'm going to show you some receipts to prove it. All right. The Hawaiians, the Samoans, the natives of Hawaii, of the islands, Fuji, the Tongans, the Samoans, the Hawaiians, the Aboriginals of Australia were the sons of Japhet when they got driven out of their original homeland, which was Western Asia, which they now call Europe or Eurasia. All right. So let me get a scripture, and then we're going to let this guy talk. I'm going to let him speak for about a good 5 or 6 minutes. I'll interject here and there to make some corrections, but we're going to start with this one. This is Isaiah 25:7, and it reads, "He will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people, and the veil that is spread over all nations." So Esau, Edom, the so-called self-proclaimed, made it up, the so-called white man. He cast a veil over all people, and have created lines of confusion. There are melanated people who come into America that are darker than I am, darker than this guy, but yet statistically, this is how you know their statistics are all false. And the statistics and on their documents, it actually says that they're white. So they bring in melanated people from Eurasia and different parts of North Africa and different parts of Asia, and they actually call these people Caucasian when they come to America to increase their numbers. So everything about Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, the self-proclaimed white man, is a lie. So without any further ado, this young saint here, he is a saint. He's an Israelite. All right. So here we go. I'm going to prove that with scripture too, but here we go.
White started bringing up something called the Great Replacement. Put simply, the Great Replacement theory says that too much immigration of non-white folks to countries that are mostly made up of white folks is bad.
Now, this is an important concept, and this is why the Book of Dark Truths is such a critical lesson to help you navigate. You see, the Great Replacement theory is quite...
He said the Book of Dark Truths, all right, calling himself the saint. when it's the Bible. That's where the 100% truth. That the Bible is the most accurate history book ever written. That also happens to be full of prophecy. All right. It happens to be full of prophecy. Okay. Isaiah 8:20. All right. Let's get that. And it reads, to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. So he doesn't have the true light. All right, but let's continue.
Comical because it relies wholly on lies and also on a psychotically racist thinking, which is errant thinking and evil thinking. I'll tell you why. Number one, they're saying that they can't have non-whites come into white countries. It's not right. It's not fair. But that would make sense if we were in Europe, which is a subcontinent or a part of a continent. You see, the Europeans are such supremacists and liars that they've taught you that Europe is a continent when in fact it's not. So they have lied to you, teaching you that there's 7 continents when there in fact are only 6. The Europeans do not have their own continent, such as, say, the Africans. But their race.
Okay, let's stop it right there. The reason that they're saying this is because the earth has been given into their hands. They are the wicked that the Bible speaks of, young saint. It says, Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? All right, so Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, all right, who called himself Caucasian, called themselves white, all right, he and everything else, because they also are the stealers of heritages. All right. He proclaimed himself white, and the earth is given into his hands by the Lord as a punishment, mainly to the saints, to you, young brother. And keep that raise off your head and grow your beard fully too, young bro.
Racism has caused them to tell you a blatant lie such that they could claim their own continent. But I say that to suggest this. If we were in Europe...
As a matter of fact, let me get, now that he said that, I have to produce the receipt. I'm going to show you the continent of Eurasia. Hold on, excuse me for a moment. Here we go. Here we go. Here's a receipt for Eurasian. All right, because he was right. I'm just going to give you the receipt to prove it. It says Asia, in a sense, is a compound Eurasia, all right, or pertaining to Eurasia, to Europe and Asia, considered as forming in reality one continent. So there's only 6 continents, all right, and these are the original inhabitants of Europe, right there. And if you've ever seen, you can just look at all those images there. Okay, those were the people that were driven out of Western Asia that they now call Europe or Eurasia. Okay, so you got Northwestern Asia and then you have Southwestern Asia. Southwestern Asia is referred to as the Middle East. All right, the Middle East is Western Asia. And there are people who live in Asia who still refer to it as that. All right, I have a client from Bangladesh who every time he talks about that region, he just says Western Asia. And I told him, and I found it interesting because there's not many people that say that. He said, well, that's what I learned in school. And I never heard of the Middle East until I came to America. All right, so there it is. All right. But let's go to the book of Maccabees, and we're going to let the saint, do his thing, because he does go hard on Esau, Edom. But this is, but those corrections need to be made. But this is First Maccabees, because either he doesn't know this history or he ignores it. Either way, we're gonna put it out there now. But this is the book of Maccabees, and what I'm about to read you matches up with secular history. You find this same stuff written, this same history that I'm reading about, that I'm about to read about, is in encyclopedias. Especially if you can get your hands on some old encyclopedias. That's why they want to make everything digital. so they can, hide. But this is First Maccabees 1:1, and it reads, and it happened after Alexander, the son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim, had smitten Darius, Darius, king of the Persians and Medes. That will be the people that you're looking at on the screen. That's how they look. All right. That he reigned in his stead, his race, his stock, his bloodline, the Edomites' bloodline, who will be referred to as white today, all right, or Caucasian today, the first over Greece. So the so-called white man, who is Esau, Edom, drove these people, beat these people, conquered them, mixed their, lightened them up, and many of them that didn't want that scattered or left. And they went to where? They went to the islands. They ended up jumping on the water, and they ended up in Australia. They ended up in Hawaii, Samoa, the islands of Samoa, and all that stuff. That's where they went to. All right, to Australia, and what's the other island that they completely wiped them out and pushed them off? Tasmania. That's where the sons of Japhet went to. And the Edomites, the self-proclaimed white people, basically took over Europe and took over Greece, all right? And then when Greece fell, all right, when Rome fell, then Negroes took it over, all right? So there's a lot of history. And that's also why the so-called white man hates the Negro so much, because he knows that history, that the Irish, the Scots, the Brits, the Vikings, the Swedes, all those people were melanated people. They were Negroes. All right. And before they were the Negroes, they were the Etruscans. So Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, took over Europe, drove the people on the screen out. And then after the fall of Rome, the Negroes that were in Rome rose up to power and took it over. Factual history that cannot be disputed. All right. So let's go back to here. It says, verse 2, 1 Maccabees 1 and 2, and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. So they went throughout Asia and Western Asia, slaying, conquering, and slaying most of the people you see on the screen, and went through the ends of the earth and took spoils of the nations, insomuch as the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted in his heart and was lifted up. So he went all throughout Asia and the northern parts of Africa. And he gathered a mighty strong host, and he gathered people unto him as he conquered them, made them tributaries. All right. And he gathered mighty strong hosts and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and men that had been brought up with him from his youth. These were other Edomites, his 4 generals, and parted his kingdom among them. All right. And you can read about Alexander's 4 generals in secular history. This information can be found in Britannica encyclopedias. All right. All right. And it says, wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable men that had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. And then these same men, guess what? They killed his son to make sure he could never rise to power. And look at the way the Edomites are cutthroat against each other now. The West is about to fight, the West. America is about to fight, the EU and NATO. They're falling apart. Okay? So the same thing is repeating itself because the same people are back. And it says, and his servants bear rule, every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, so that their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. All right. So when they took over and became the Grecians, and the Grecians then turned into the Roman Empire, they then labeled themselves royals and all that stuff. And evils multiplied in the earth when the so-called white man came to power. All right. So let's go back to the brother Marquette the Saint. And let's let him finish now.
And we were saying, we don't want to be replaced. We, the white Europeans, that would make sense, for Europe is the home of you whites. That's the factory of the whites. That's where you
And see, that's where he's wrong. We just cleared that up. Their home is Edom. All right. Edom is just south of Israel. Okay. In Jordan. That's where the Edomites came from. They took over Europe. Okay.
come from. And to be replaced in your homeland, I mean, that is a bit strange. I could agree with that. You know, Europe for the Europeans, Africa for the Africans, China for the Chinese, all sound.
So he knows no, even though he's calling himself the saint, he knows no biblical names. The Chinese are the biblical Moabites. The Africans are the biblical Moabites, different from himself. So, you know, and just like the original Europeans, they were also chocolate-colored people, but also different from himself. All skin folk ain't kinfolk. So remember, all of Asia was even Ben Franklin wrote it in his letter in 1751, right? That the whole world was swarthy or tawny, save the Caucasians. So everyone in the world was melanated, all right? And then when Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, started conquering, he started lightening people up. People lightened up through the rape, robbery, and colonizations of basically the whole world. Because these Edomites stole whole countries. All right, they're the biggest thieves, and like the title says, Marquette explains why Europeans are the most psychotic, violent group in history, and that he's so on point with that. He's so right with that point, with that one talk point.
It's reasonable. However, uniquely among the peoples of the earth, one particular group of people is particularly vicious, and they don't say Europeans, Europe for the Europeans. They pretty much say everything for the Europeans. Yes, they invade China and Asia. They took over the entire continent of Australia through utter murder and violence, evil, you might say. They did the same thing to the whole continent of North America, and they did quite a number on the continent of South America as well. They didn't skip Central America. Their violence spread there. Then they went to the massive continent of Africa, tried to wipe them out as well. There's only one people that have attempted such a thing. No other peoples can you identify as that level of vicious colonials to where they go and actually replace the population.
Exactly. Then complain when what goes around comes around. This is Nahum, the book of Nahum. Three and 1. And it reads, "Woe to the bloody city! It is full of lies and robbery, and the prey departeth not." All right. And the prey never got away. They were died or subjugated. And now now history is a lie. And the people are completely and totally robbed of their countries, of their complete and total heritage, right? So not only did they take the land from people, they stole their heritage. And you got Edomites that call themselves Native Americans now, right? Remember the $5 Indian, they were able to sign that Dawes Roll. A lot of people need to know that because Indians, natives, all right, which are actually Israelites, both North, South, Central America for the most part, I would probably say the majority of them, they came over. That's actually in the Bible, all right? And because he talks about how they were looking for Indian, found it, and called them Indians. No, that because he was a school teacher, so he's really off of that. No, they came over here looking for the Israelites. They knew exactly. They knew it. Cristobal Colon studied the book of Ezra, and in the book of Ezra, 13 and 40, it clearly explains that the natives came to Asareth. And in many Jewish targums and encyclopedias, even the Jewish historians and rabbis have identified America as Asareth. Even the Mormons knew that the natives were continuing to murder and steal their land anyway, but the Mormons, they call the natives the tribe of Dan, which was wrong, but they were wrong about them being Danites, but they were right about them being Israelites. Okay, so it was the Israelites that came to the Americas. They came to the Americas to subjugate the Israelites, the northern kingdom. And then later on, 100 years later, they went to the west coast of Africa to subjugate Judah. All right, it tells you in Jeremiah 50 and 33. And that reads, "Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. And all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go." And a lot of people don't know that. But there were occasions, and I actually have the books and the receipts to prove it, but there are occasions when the so-called natives of the Americas and the Negroes, the Israelites that they brought from West Africa, were on same slave ships together. All right, that actually happened. All right, and remember, Seville, Spain became the reverse slave capital of the world. So they were taking Native Americans, they were taking natives of South and Central America, and they were sending them over to Seville, Spain. They also sent a lot of them to a lot of what you call Mexicans and natives got sent to the Philippines. All right, so there's a lot of Israelites. As a matter of fact, there's a group in the Philippines that identify themselves as Israelite foreigners, and they actually call on the name of Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. Now they go off because they go into the book of Yasher and all this other stuff, but they actually got through diligent study, they came to the conclusion that the name has to be is Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. All right, you even hear them singing a little song and saying, Yahweh and why Yahweh Shai. You hear them sing their little song in Tagalog, but they always say the name of the Lord, in the ancient Hebrew, the way it's supposed to be pronounced. So we truly did get scattered to the four corners of the earth. So this really isn't a color thing. All right. And another thing he said, these people really did rape, rob, and murder, and violently and psychotically took over other people's land, and then try to set up laws to justify what they have done, and now are terrified that it's going to be done to them. So this is Micah 2:1, and it reads, "Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand." And I just recently watched American Primeval, which shows you the Christians and the Mormons attacking and killing the Gadites, the so-called Native Americans, and setting them up and coming early in the morning or late at night to murder them. All right, so that they can have their land. "And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in a house, even a man and his heritage. Therefore thus saith Yahweh, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall you go haughtily, for the time is evil." So Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, is going to pay for this wickedness that he has done. All right, he is not going to walk off into the sunset. All right, he is not going to get to enjoy the fruits of his oppression. All right, his time is very, very short. Okay. Now, I said that I wanted to read a scripture. I said something about how the saints are the Israelites. So I'm going to Psalms 148, and I'm going to read verses 13 and 14, and it reads, "Let them praise the name of Yahweh, for his name alone is excellent. His glory is above the earth and heaven. He also exalteth the horn of his people." All right, his people are who? The Israelites. "The praise of all his saints." The saints are the Israelites. So this brother right here, Brother Marquette here, is actually an Israelite. All right. I'm trying to get this. Catching him blinking. He's looking crazy. I want to have a brother out there like that. I want to do you like that, bro. But it says, "He also exalted the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even of the children of Israel, a people near unto him. Praise ye Yahweh." So the Israelites are the people who are near and dear to the Lord and no one else. despite what, you know, the fraudulent teachings of Christianism, of Mormonism, of Catholicism, of Judaism, what they teach. Regardless of those frauds, the Bible doesn't condone that. The Bible, you know, and it tells you the Lord changes not. Okay, so let's go to 149. We'll probably read the whole thing. All right, because this is it for Esau Edom. He's about to fill his belly. He's getting ready. He's torn apart. You can see the nation, even the sign, even in the illustration there. They're about to the Egyptian versus the Egyptian. America's going to be fighting against each other, and they're also going to be fighting against the Europe, which is all prophecy. All right, this third world's war, and he speaks about the wars, you know. And what he doesn't know is that that's written in the Bible. And he even said that the third war, because I suggest you watch this video. All right, but he even says that the third war is about to happen, and it's white people causing it. And he's 200% right. He's 144% right. All right. And matter of fact, all the wars that have happened in the last 100 years or so, and the ones before that, have all been wars that were pretty much waged by Esau, Edom, and so-called white men. They're the only people that go to another land and just claim everything to be their own and massacre and commit genocide, slavery, and colonization on the inhabitants of the land. All right. But this is Psalms 149 and 1. It says, praise Yahweh, sing unto Yahweh a new song, and his praise in the congregation of the saints. See, and so that new song, even though it's not a new song, it's really old song, but it's new now because this song had not been sung in so long. All right. And that new song is the gospel that the Lord is only for his people who are scattered. All right. And he's going to bring down all the mountains and hills. Mountains and hills represent governments, and reestablish his mountain, the Israelites, in power over all people on the face of the earth. That's the kingdom of heaven. And that's who the world fraudulently calls Jesus Christ, you know, G, all right, and sus, earth pig, G and earth, sus pig, all right. How dare they? But who they ignorantly call that, he's coming back to take down all mountains and hills, large governments, small governments, and set up the kingdom of heaven here on earth. It tells you that in the book of Revelation, all right. And that's why in the Lord's Prayer, on earth as it is in heaven, then the laws of heaven will apply here on earth, and the saints, the 144,000, will be the new world government forever and ever and ever and ever. And they will enforce the law of the Bible, all right, on all people, and there will be peace on earth finally. Okay, but it says, let Israel rejoice in him that made him. Let the children of Zion be joyful in their king. Right? And said nobody else. How Denzel said in the book of Eli, didn't mention you. All right. It says, let them praise his name in the dance. Let them sing praises unto him with timbrel and harp. For Yahweh taketh pleasure in his people. All personal pronouns. You can't, all this inclusion, replacement theory. All right. It says, for Yahweh taketh pleasure in his people, personal pronoun. He will beautify the meek with salvation, with definitely the meek. Let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds. Let the high praises of God be in their mouth, and a two-edged sword in their hand, to execute vengeance upon the heathen and punishments upon the people, to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron, to execute upon them the judgment written. This is an honor. Have all his saints praise ye Yahweh. So this is how you know that the Israelites are not back in the home in the Holy Land, because what I just read happens when the Israelites go home. All people get put under subjection, right? And they have to be in that way for 1,000 years to build up the kingdom of heaven for free, because every nation benefited from my downfall. And then after that, all the nations will go home, go to the lands where they were back to where they were supposed to be, according to Genesis, the 10th chapter. All right. And then the nation of Edom, self-proclaimed so-called white people, Well, go read the book of Obadiah. Then they get judged as a nation, as a people. And they'll be, then, vocab, they'll actually be done away with, wiped from the face of the earth. And there will be no more people with pale flesh on the earth ever again. All right? And that is the what the Bible says, not me. All right? So with that, I'm going to give all praises, all honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rikah HaKodash, Kwam Yasharala, Abad Babal.